Hi everyone, welcome to Walk the Talk with Bulbeer, and I am with the Puran Kumar, principal at Studio PKA, a 30-year-old architectural and interior design studio. So guys, let's begin our conversation with him. Hi Puran.
Hey, Bulbeer, good to have you here. I'm glad we finally have made it.
I know.
Welcome to the loft and welcome to this conversation. Thank you. Thanks very much for taking
Thanks for your time. I really appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to having a lovely conversation. And first, let me begin with is your style. I love it.
Thank you.
I
Thank you so
really
much.
love your style.
You're very kind. Thank you very much. But yeah, it's the way you are is how you like to wear yourself.
Absolutely.
So we good
To begin.
So you were talking about being here and enjoying this space.
Oh yes, absolutely. So, I mean, somehow the space. It looks like you have restored it from. Isn't it like an old building that you worked on?
Yeah. It's a 110-year-old building that we are in, and but of course, so it forms a certain genre of work.
Mm-hmm.
But did you have that in mind when you saw the place? What was your first?
No, when I saw the place, I was like, what is the whole idea behind this kind of work, the adaptive reuse? I wanted to ask you that what made you start? What drew you to start in architecture and interior design, but adaptive reuse? It's something totally different and out of the box.
Yeah.
Is what I felt. So I wanted to know from you that
Sure.
what made you look into this part.
So most people consider architecture and designing as spaces that we build and the spaces that we redo. But nobody thinks about reusing spaces, and there are so many buildings and so much of space that's available to us, and it's crying for attention. And for help and for restoration. So most people would consider that aspect as something which is either below them because they have not created those spaces, or something that they can't relate with simply because these old buildings and the old structures are full of challenges. So this space which is around us, we call this the loft. It's our studio. We've been in this building for a good 6-7 years now more. And this is the second space in the building which we call loft redefined. However, it's the concept of the loft which we carried forward from the previous building. I think somewhere, Bulbeer, it's about your own sensibility, the person who you are, whether you respect the environment, respect reuse, and do not believe in wastage, and do not believe in being mindless about creating. So I think there's a lot of mindfulness here about what we have around us, and that could give us enough opportunity to give your own expression. Now, this happens to be the studio's expression. It's in an old building of 112 years age. This was built in 1911 or 1912.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're looking at something that's lived 11 decades. And it could really be very old, dilapidated, good for nothing, to be torn down, to be brought down. But we saw life in it, we saw reuse in it, and that's how we've revived these buildings, brought them to their original structural glory, their beautiful arches or the superb surfaces like the brick texture and the rest, and the old wood, beautiful timber which was brought in from
the
Burma.
original quality.
So this is you're talking about the 19th century teak over here, which is right here, and it lives and breathes with us. We don't get it anymore. We're not going to be doing that. So the objective was not to mindlessly discard everything and look at something that is absolutely fresh, but instead marry the old with the new. That's what we've done. So we've designed our own. You can look at the furniture around you, or the spaces around us are new, but they are weaved in with the old space. So that's how we look at adaptive use, and I think that's a direction which a whole lot of people will look towards in the future, when the resources will be a little limited, when sustainability will become bigger than what it is today, and you will see that happening. So the loft is our expression. Loft is what we breathe in, and it's an emotion that goes with the studio.
Of course, that's amazing. That's true. So when did you begin this journey? Of course, heartiest congratulations on 30 years. But
Thank you.
That journey is different from
I know.
the journey in the mind.
Yeah, that's
You know,
true.
when you actually thought that, okay, I want to become an architect and things. When was that?
So, very frankly speaking, there was no such thought to begin with, but it happened to you by accident. That's how it used to be in the century gone by. A lot of things happen by accident, unlike things which are made to happen by choices today. But no regrets there. Once you stumbled upon something, you made it your own, and design became life, and life became design. So it's not for nothing that you say that when you're designers, when you're designing, your work becomes you. So that's how what one experienced pretty early on, and you could not think of any other way but to as an architect design spaces and build experiences and lives for people who we touch. So I can't really keep going back to that, but it is wonderful to begin on that journey, and then of course things kept getting built, and as they say in other terms as well, that one thing led to the other, and before you know, you had a practice, and you had work behind you, and people wanting to get your creativity, your expression to be part of their lives, their living experiences. So yeah, it's been great in that sense.
Super. So the loft looks like an old building as an adaptive reuse project, which is your USP. Could you please tell us more about this?
So we came to this building, as I said, about 7 years back. We were always looking for a space in this art district, in the heritage precinct of South Bombay. And when we looked at a few buildings, this somehow seemed to be the kind of space that we wanted to take to and remodel to a modern use for a studio use, for a design use. And it happened in a way where we could restore not just the basic features of the building, but also make a certain vibe. So Loft now is not only known as our studio, but it's a place where there are events and there are exhibitions and there are people who come in, speakers come in from all fraternities, from all walks of life, and come and speak here to the city's people. Like recently, for the last couple of years, we've been part of Kala Ghoda festival, and this is one of the venues in Kala Ghoda Fest.
Okay.
And we hold talks here during the festival and a whole lot of things. We also have a property called Stories of the Loft, where we invite architects, designers, photographers, artists from various walks to come in and speak to the people who like to listen to them. So it's become a kind of a culture. The Loft is now a culture, and we love that as part of this building, which was looking like it was going to just wait. It was going to wait to be demolished. But I think life has been infused in the building.
So
with us being here.
when you came here looking for an office, was it like a calling when you were like, this is
It's
it?
literally that.
No?
It is literally that.
It sounds.
So the space pulls you and says, and the energy.
Yeah.
It's about the energy of the space, and it says, okay, all right. I think I was waiting for you to happen to me. It's literally
I can
that.
feel that here.
Yeah.
You know, I can actually feel it.
So people,
because
I've
I
heard that
asked
before.
you. Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Oh.
So it's really about the space, the energy that the space holds,
Correct.
and how you respond to it, become part of that energy. So that fusion has happened with me personally, also with us as a team.
Definitely. Wishing you all the best and more
Thanks.
prosperity here.
Thank you. Then.
So, Puran, is it more effective to build from scratch or an adaptive reuse as an option?
So I would say that if you have an option where you do see your expression or the spaces that you're responding to as part of an existing setup, an existing building, like there are many buildings in and around South Bombay, spaces in Kala Ghoda or in Barrett State, in Fort, which or even near Oval, the Art Deco buildings of Bombay, which are more than 100 years old now. But people don't look at them with as much love, as much respect as everywhere else in the world. You respect heritage, you respect history, you respect culture where you come from. That we don't do as people. We are not that kind of people. We build and we build without giving a thought to what may already have been there. So from that perspective, I'm one for making sure that if you've not found a solution in an adaptive reuse, in a restoration space, restored space, then by all means try and build on fresh land. But if there are old buildings that are waiting to be used and there's potential, why won't you exercise that potential? Why would you not at least take some trouble to see if you can fit a function, a program, a space program into an existing structure and if it works?
I loved it when you said it earlier that, crying for attention, the place is crying for attention now, waiting to be used. I mean, you are treating the place as a human being.
I treat it as
And
an
that
entity.
is so beautiful.
It's
I mean,
an
I feel like, it's a person, it's somebody that we are
For me, the
sitting in.
space is an
And
entity.
that's
You
so
can't ignore
beautiful.
it.
That is amazing. I mean, it just shows the kind of emotion connect you have towards this kind of structures, heritage structures.
You put it there absolutely in words. I was talking to somebody recently, 2-3 days back, and I said, there's an emotional investment in space.
Yes.
If one is prepared for that emotional investment, then you should look at old structures. Otherwise, don't bother. Just very peacefully go into a new structure where you know that you can get what you want, and it's fine. If you are in, you have to love being in spaces like that. You have to love the spaces that you're in. If you're not able to, if you're incapable of that emotion, then you can't.
So true. Really, I mean, this is. I mean, I have got emotional about this now because, I mean, it's taught me that you have to see things also with a perspective. You can't just be like, okay, this is a building, this is like that. You know what I mean?
I guess it's somewhere the sensitivity that you have inherent in
have
you
to be
that's
sensitive.
important.
Yeah.
So if your sensitivity is at the fore of your personality, you possibly will go through that process. But if you are insensitive and you don't, so let's say you're functional in your objective and you're basically very target driven, you're very objective driven, that's a different ballgame.
True. That's true. So we would like to hear your views on sustainable architecture and its relationship to restoration and rehabilitation.
Yes, so the rehab of the buildings, making sure that they stay strong for a long period of time, or the restoration of those in order to infuse life, is very much a part of the sustainable architecture that we practice as a firm. I truly believe in sustainability, not just by material use, not by only lack of wastage, but also of ensuring that what is with you stays longer, lives longer, serves the purpose longer. If that's what you can do, imagine if every building or every bit of space that was being brought down in 50 years can be extended to 75 or 100 years or a little more than that. There is that much less of the planet that you're using.
Correct.
There's that much less your requirements will without a thought just keep growing. So if you can contain that, if you can contain the carbon footprint, you can contain deforestation, if you can contain grabbing land by way of extending the use of buildings, of space, in order to do that, you have to restore. And that's the best form of sustainable architecture.
100%.
I read somewhere, and I forget the quote said by a very eminent architect, saying that the greenest building is the one that already exists. You can't build better than that. It already is there. It has a carbon footprint. Now, if you can use that, if you can reuse that, that's the greenest architecture. Anything more than that, you build anything more than that, is not going to be as green.
So true, so deep.
It is. Don't think about it. If one thinks about it, it's something which is a simple point.
It's very
but
deep,
you miss
and
it.
you have to be sensitive to understand these things, like you rightly said. You have to be sensitive, otherwise, it's not going to happen. Yeah. Some structures which you love that are examples of adaptive reuse in architecture.
So there are
Anywhere
many,
in the world.
Sure, of course, there are many good examples of structures that have been used, buildings that have been reused over a period of time. Now, unfortunately, in India, we are not very oriented towards getting that to be the principal exercise in your practice. People believe, as I said earlier, architecture to be new buildings. But in the West, there is a deep understanding and respect for the architecture that's been existing through ages, through history, through cultural changes and evolution. And architects and designers, urban planners they truly believe in actively restoring and reusing these spaces. For example, if you went to London, you see that the old part of the city or the colonial part of the city remains the same decade after decade. It just retains its fabric, it retains its texture, its heritage value, and they build within that for various uses. Now, what yesterday may have been an art gallery, today may be a Zara store, tomorrow could be an automobile store, or could be anything else. So their adaptability to move with the times without tearing down architecture and spaces is immaculate. So one of the examples that comes to my mind is a power station in London.
Okay.
And it's an age old, it's about 100, 200, more than 150, 200 years old power station that has a massive footprint. It's in the it's in the, I think it's in northwest side of the city.
Mm-hmm.
It has a huge facility which has in the past, during the industrial revolution time, been used as a very effective power station. I mean, it has turbines and it's got massive machines, and it's been used as a power station forever. Cut to this century, in fact, about maybe 10, 15 years back, the government decided that this is a defunct structure. Let's try and make use of it, and they asked architects to come up with ideas. Last year, that entire project, which ran for 15 years after a competition,
Mm-hmm.
was complete, and it opened as one of the largest facilities of multiple use in London, where you have commercial activity there, there's retail activity, and there are residences and penthouses. So that entire facility has been converted into a massive multiple use facility for retailers. But people like you and I would be lost for a day over there if we went in. It's massive retail. There are offices there, corporate offices, and there are residences, there are penthouses. Exactly. So the absolute uber rich people would actually be going and getting their spaces there. So my point here is that Battersea Power Station would have been lost if it was in bad state. Nobody would do anything about it. We've seen examples like that all over our city. But that's a living example in London of a complete adaptive use of a dead space, of a space that had been dead for some time. And likewise, in New York, if you go, there's a railway line, which is now called the High Line Project. That railway line stopped having an active movement for some time. They converted that into a public space, and you have to see what Heatherwick Studios done there, where the entire High Line is completely green. It's got public spaces, it's got gardens, it's got massive spaces for public to use and to go from one end of town to the other. And it's in the heart of Manhattan. So what are we talking about here? You could easily just get rid of that line and not do anything over there, put a road there or something like that. But there is an adaptive reuse. So there are plenty of examples like that in China and in America. You have old and heritage structures which are being revived and given new lease of life. And I think if we look at it a little deeply, that's the way forward for this world to be a little more sane, for it to be a little more sensible. That's the way forward. That's the way to look at it.
But I think that's what it is, right? Everything of the past is coming back, even in fashion.
Exactly. There we go.
Everything. It's like all those antique pieces in jewelry, those
vintage stuff,
vintage products. In clothes, the bell bottoms.
We are not to get rid of those. You wait for 30 years and it'll come back. So that's my point. So in building's case, let's say the life is longer. So let's say you build a building for say 50 years or 70 years or 100 years. And after that, you feel that if a building is done 60 years, I live in a building, in an old building, which most people would believe that it has done its number. But I believe that if you, and I'm back to that, you give it enough love, if you treat it nicely, tenderly, and restore it well, you could have that building work for another 30 years, another 40 years. Would you complain about that? No, you save construction cost. You save the hassle of relocation and putting people back. You save a whole lot of time in your lives. You don't have to really waste all of that. It's all coming of use because you've been sensible somewhere. So I think that's important. The reuse is important. It's very, very important.
So that reminds me, now my building where I live is almost 40 years and they want to redevelop. So that means now when you redevelop is something that you totally are against, which I believe now. No. Which I believe now that you should take care of things. So how would if people think like those watching this are definitely wanting to know, and I am going to be more than happy to let them know from you that how do you save a building from redevelopment other than making those spaces. See, today people are the ones who are taking care of the building in the society. They're seeing issues that this
I know.
is,
So then
how
it's
do
a whole
you
lot
work
of
on that?
it's a new discussion altogether. If you ask me honestly, where there's a lot of maintenance issues or the way the
Too much
construction
of
is.
maintenance,
I am
the
actually purely
construction
talking
that
about
is-
construction which is robust
Yeah.
and it is legendary. It's got heritage value.
Heritage value.
Most of the architecture that we know in the other parts of the city does not have the heritage value. My point here is that
You
if
answered my question.
if something has heritage value and it can continue to charm you for decades, it can continue to be wowing you, it'll inspire awe. This building, I can tell you, or any building in the vicinity
in this
here,
area.
will inspire awe even 100 years from now. So should I just let the rules and people's mindlessness take over and redo the entire space, redo the entire precinct, or we should be conscious about saving this heritage and let generations enjoy it. So that's so possible. It's so possible. It's about being oriented towards it, honestly.
So, Puran, what do you have to say for Ace Tech? What do you think about Ace Tech?
Oh, Ace Tech is blessed. It's a blessed space, right? It's just growing. It's growing like crazy. I've in front of my eyes in the last, I think, about 10 years, or let's just say thereabouts. I have seen it grow immensely. I mean, great, absolutely. Credit to you and Sumit and everybody in the team. You guys have taken it from somewhere to somewhere altogether, and it's covered pan. It's covered all the zones now, and I think the kind of engagement that it has with the design fraternity, with the construction fraternity, is quite amazing. I have always seen the best of the developers, the people who matter in real estate, always being part of Ace Tech. I don't think any other forum in the country is able to sustain that in that sense. So really hats off to you people. Really doing well. I mean, not just congratulations, but I think I have huge respect for that sort of sustainable growth in this field.
Thank you, Puran. It was amazing talking with you and
likewise.
all the insights. Oh my God.
I know
There's
we've
so much
been
of
meaning to
depth
do this
in
for a
our
while. Yeah.
Conversation, and I've totally loved it. And I can't wait to wear it for people to come, actually know about what this is all about.